as you're hearing quite a bit of trade chatter now around these Cowboys.
I don't know what to think. The Lael Collins news that we recently came to from Ian Rappaport, where he let everybody know that the Cowboys seem to be looking to trade Lael Collins. They're at least listening to trade conversations, that it seems like there's willing suitors out there. I mean, at least it does seem like they're placing a priority on this offensive line and trying to get it different at the very least, and hopefully better, because Lael Collins was one of those guys that I think a lot of us looked at this organization and thought they will look at him highly, and that
the next Pro Bowl player.
Right?
That's the next Pro Bowl player. That's the guy. Who's the guy that's going to make his first Pro Bowl? It's going to be Lael Collins, right? We all said that, right?
For sure.
I know I did.
And I think that maybe they're looking outside of the rose-colored glasses on some of these guys now, and maybe trying to be more honest about the evaluations of some of their players, particularly their offensive line. So I do think that there's a little hope in that. Is that fair?
Yeah, I kind of feel like
so?
Yeah, I think so too. The thing that they love Terrence Steele. Again, this is good, bad, whatever you want to say. I mean, Terrence Steele played well. You can't fault him for that. I mean, there were some times where he, got driven back, but heck, there were times where Lael Collins got driven back. Mm-hmm. And this is a situation right now there, and I think, I don't know if you guys will agree with me or not. I think there's taking some things personal over there right now.
Yeah.
With some of their players.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe with Lael Collins, they're taking some things a little personal over there. Mari Cooper taking some things a little personal over there.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's the whole deal. Maybe, we'll see. Mike McCarthy's got to have to answer for this, ultimately, because he started taking away all these players. Whew, Mike McCarthy's going to look at you and like, I had no chance. The guy told me he was probably going to fire me before the season. He's taking away my players. But, hey, if they believe in Terrence Steele, this is probably a good deal for them.
It might be a good idea, too, just because Lael Collins has been so hurt. And, Brian, I know we were talking about this last offseason.
We sure were.
Like, maybe it's not a guy you want to hitch your wagon to. Sorry, I cut you off there, Reggie.
No, it's just a question that I've been bandying about over the last week or two is, do we have a firm grasp or any grasp whatsoever on what the strategy is for this offseason? Because it feels to pull in a lot of different directions, in my opinion. And I know that I might not have the most clear sight on it, so I'm kind of trying to throw it out to the brain trust.
We talked about it, I think, on Monday. Is this a Cowboys version of a rebuild? It's starting to look more and more like it, isn't it?
Yeah, you guys.
We definitely got to move a lot of stuff around here.
Yeah, you guys are right about this, and you never want to believe that the Cowboys would do that, but last year, I think that's why the sense of urgency as far as maybe getting something done, and maybe that's why we heard some of the disappointment after the season, because we knew this team would look remarkably different.
I didn't know this different.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, though.
This is heavy.
This is really heavy.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what they believe. They believe that Terrence Steele's the guy. They believe they can go on without Amari Cooper. They believe these things.
Yeah.
No, they put themselves in a lot of the situation, though.
They sure did. Yeah.
So I mean, that's they
they had a good enough roster to accomplish all their goals too. They did a hell of a job.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Okay, Richie, did you say this, and correct me if I'm wrong? Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't.
It's all good.
But the thing about it, was this their push the chips in the middle of the table moment? Was this the push the chips in the table season? But they did it differently than what the Rams do. But it's just like, well, we're just going to try with, we're going to try with all these wide receivers. We're going to try with Dak. We're going to try with, was this their moment of doing it that way? But it wasn't like the Rams version of doing it.
Yeah, because with the Rams, they went and found other teams' players.
Exactly.
With the Cowboys,
they bet on their own.
They kept everybody and then restructured. Dak kept his year one really low.
Right.
And I think that allowed them to get extra players on the roster than what an NFL team under the salary cap should hold. Extra veterans on the roster. And usually you take great advantage of it. I do like that kind of aggressiveness, but they weren't aggressive enough with their coaching staff, and their head coach wasn't aggressive enough in helping the OC.
But I think this is an absolutely fair question from the 682 on the truckwreck.com fan text. Why are they rebuilding after 12-5? And some of that, I guess, maybe you can point to the cap or whatever, but if they're rebuilding, or maybe we'll use the lighter term retooling again here, bring that back around for our listening audience. It feels like so much of this is the bad second half of the season and then the even worse final game just soured all of the feelings about this team, even though it felt like for the longest time that they had done good work building this team.
Yeah, I think because guys are getting old, they're up against it with the cap, and some guys had to go. You just can't run it back with a team that only got to the wild card weekend. That's a championship weekend or better scenario where you know you're killing yourself in the future and there's going to be a big reckoning coming. You only make that worse if you have a real contender. And I don't think the Cowboys can, after how that ended last year, be confident. You can hope you can get a balanced offense back and build another defense that good. But a lot of things had to go right. You stayed pretty much 100% healthy, and you were still, pretty pathetic once you got to the playoffs.
Kind of a hollow 12-5, right?
A little bit.
Kind of like one of those kind you get in, and I get it. It's hard to win. You always hear us always say it's hard to win. I agree it's hard to win. But there just seem like those days where it's like, 12-5, and I'm like, was that really a 12-5 team? The record says they were 12-5.
Yeah.
But when it came down to, having to get games done against a Kansas City or better opponents and stuff, they came up short.
Well, an incredible week of Cowboy news continues. Yeah. The truckwreck.com fan text. I like how you're calling it the fan text still, not the text line over here on my reader. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Pulling a Ron Burgundy over here, just calling it the text line.
I kind of use them interchangeably.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It's just whatever rolls off the tongue, I think.
903 says, burn, baby, burn. Is that what they're doing here? Are they burning this thing down? Roster's old. Keep Parsons, Dak, CD, Diggs. Pay the younger offensive line. Do not pay anyone else. They are expendable. It's very difficult to get another half dozen veteran players who can really play. You got to choose some guys to hang on to, or it's going to get real ugly around here.
Yeah, it will. And to your guys' point, since we're kind of talking about our platforms, JD says the Cowboys were at their healthiest in the playoffs, and they just couldn't win. There's no excuse for that at this point.
Over there in that Twitch lounge?
Yeah.
I thought that was damn John Daniels. I was like, all right. We want to focus on the Cowboys right now.
That might be your personal text.
Yeah. Oh, it might be. JD, yeah. He's kind of reached out to me a couple different times. Yeah.
Now, what do you think of the idea of a full breakdown? What if this is the start of kind of a burn, baby, burn scenario?
We can talk about that, but this is where it kind of breaks down in my head is then why do you franchise tag the tight end? You know what I mean? There are some moves that make it seem like, hey, we need to do something for next year, and at the same time, others that you could maybe piece together and go, there's a rebuild, retool, what have you happening. And those things don't live together quite nicely in my brain. So I guess I'm still trying to piece that together.
Okay, because A, you have a salary cap floor at 90% of the salary cap.
Okay.
B, a lot of plays are going to break down. And that guy has a knack for knowing, this isn't to be an explosive player on a winning team, but to give Dak somebody to throw to because about 20-25% of the time he's going to have pressure, right?
Yeah, to me, this is one of those things where you look at your team and you say, wow, who was the one guy that was playing well? And everybody could kind of say, well, Dalton Schultz wasn't terrible. If we didn't have Dalton Schultz, we probably wouldn't have had any offense in the second half. Yeah. Wouldn't have had any offense wouldn't have any place for Dak to throw the ball. We always talk about this, guys. The biggest problem with these teams is they can't evaluate themselves. They look at it and they say, okay.
Tell him, Brian.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those things. This might be one of those situations where, you don't want to wait for the draft. You don't want to wait to try and sign or go out and get somebody else. You don't want to go out and get another center from, the Baltimore Ravens or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're just like, oh no, let's just take care of the guys we got right now and just keep this going and we'll worry about things later. I don't know. I mean, I think they could have done better than Dalton Schultz. I just do. I think the money would have been better spent somewhere else than other than Dalton Schultz, because I feel like in this draft you could have found a tight end, maybe not immediate plug and play, but how many years did it take Dalton Schultz to learn how to play? What, 2 years, 3 years? He blocked me by that time because I was on his ass way too much, So,
well, I tell you what, if Jerry or the Cowboys wanted to get us talking about something else, they did with this news for me and Rappaport, didn't they?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not doing any of the aforementioned 10-minute conversation.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is just a distraction.
Wag the dog.
There you go.